some clips to put huh? You quit pasting.
We're next turn.
Now 7 o'clock. The Atlanta School Board will come to order. We will start with the flag salutes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I cannot say that without every morning we did that in elementary school, and then we started singing My Country too.
Yeah, you want to start singing?
It's just hard
Start
not to
singing.
keep going with it.
Don't let me stop you.
Oh, boy. You don't
It's your
want to
birthday. You can do whatever you want, right?
hear a solo.
Okay. There is a vacancy on the Budget Committee. So,
Who did we lose, Kurt?
Deanne, she had filled a vacancy and told us she would give us a year, and she gave us 2.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful. But she has a pending retirement in her district, and I think she would like to truly take a break. So we've got a position to fill.
that looks like Christine Neese is serving beyond her capacities as well, is she?
And yeah, she would just have to reapply
Okay,
as well.
so technically we've got 2 openings on the board, but 1 is temporarily filled?
Yeah. One,
Okay.
I think, is interested in returning.
Okay, that would be good. So anybody likes to play with numbers? There's a slot. We have 3 board positions that are coming up for election this next May, or this coming May. Does the district need to know tonight the intentions of these 3 board members, or is that something in
Just
the
think a
future?
reminder then to get your intent if you're going to, or to be thinking about it.
Okay,
I will not be there.
You will not? Okay. Thank you for letting us know.
What if we sing?
You're ready to take a real break, huh?
What's that?
You're ready to take a break.
I am. I think about 10 years or so.
okay. So,
Okay.
Glenn, as I understand it, you may not, if you've hit 10 years, you may not leave without finding your own replacement.
Oh, I see.
Anybody less than 10 years, that's not the rule.
The world is full of them.
Yes, it is, isn't it? So if anybody knows of somebody who wants to serve on the board, we would love to have you toss your hat in the ring. The election is in May. I don't know the date, but the county elections office in Yamhill County in McMinnville needs your application, I think, in March. So be thinking about that. If anybody wants to sign up to run for the position, for a school board position, we have correspondence from the superintendent, maybe?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, good.
So starting off, I always mention facilities, and we finally had groundbreaking on the Lutheran Family Service Relief Nursery. It is scheduled to bring the modular in hopefully before the end of the calendar year. They started the site preparation a couple weeks ago. They'll be doing some electrical work and a few other things before they bring that modular in. Also, we were getting pretty excited about the thought of returning students to school. However, we've had a major uptick in cases in both Yamhill and Polk County. As you can see, I gave you guys a nice snapshot of the new metrics, and they changed significantly. You know, they were saying we had to be less than 10 cases per 100,000 before we could consider reopening, and they changed that metric to 50. So less than 50 cases per 100,000. And they've also, and we had to maintain that for 3 weeks. The new metrics require us to be less than 50, but there's exceptions for having students on site if you're in between 50 and 100. And up until this week, 100 was really, being less than 100 was really manageable. This week alone, Yamhill County jumped to 170 cases, and Polk County went to 162 or 168, one or the other. So the opportunity to even look at this limited in-person and exceptions decreased significantly. It doesn't mean we're not still planning and looking at what it will look like for Willamina to reopen, but those numbers have to change before we can do that.
So I did hear that Perrydale and Fall City are opening. So would that be because they're not tied to Yamhill County, maybe?
Well, Polk is low, but like I said, so they probably had to turn around and shut down. So, all of us were in a position that we could have brought kindergarten through 3rd grade back last week. And this year, the numbers doubled in Yamhill and Polk County. So, and they give you some leniency. So if you're open and then numbers go up, they give you a time transition phase. They give you like a little bit of time to allow those numbers to go back down without you having to shut your doors. But, and then also if you look at the whole yellow column in that page I gave you, it talks about other routes to being able to bring students on site. So for instance, if we get those numbers in between the 50 and 100, we bring back kindergarten through 3rd grade, and we continue to show that there is no spread within our school community, that means no students or staff getting it, then we can look at expanding the number of students we bring. So we could potentially bring all of kindergarten through 12th grade back in our hybrid model that we originally created. But unfortunately, as many of you may have, I don't know if you had a chance to look at your emails from me today, but we had our first staff case today.
You sent an email out today?
Yeah, probably several.
I got a text.
Yeah, so, that puts a whole nother layer of what we have to do right now. So we're in the midst of some contact tracing and
Have you been sending out emails lately? Because I haven't got anything since June 4th. So
oh yeah. So you guys are included in the all staff email, so you get every all staff email.
Yeah, I mean, I used to get them all the time, but I just wondered what was going on.
Yeah,
I haven't had
you
them since
got
June
10
4th. So.
Really? So.
Yeah, and I was getting them all the time, so.
So maybe check in with Richard and see if
I'll
there's
have
an
to do
issue
that.
with your email.
It was my password, somehow it got screwed up or something.
But anyway, so what we're doing right now is this was, if there's any good scenario, this was a week where we had conferences scheduled. We've got the Veterans holiday, so tomorrow would have been our only day with kids on site, so we're canceling kids on site tomorrow. We're doing virtual. Teachers are going to work from home if they can. if they can't, because the way teachers are teaching now compared to the way they were teaching last spring is very different. They are, with the virtual classrooms, you know, they utilize the things in their classrooms, they utilize their document cameras, present. So we're allowing staff to come into their classrooms as long as they limit themselves to their classroom tomorrow if they need their equipment to be able to teach. And then we're doing a deep clean at the high school end. So maintenance staff will be cleaning and, you know.
So it was just one case there, you said?
We have one case, yeah, and, you know, Yamhill County kind of takes over as far as the contact tracing and making sure anyone that had close contact that counts as exposure is getting tested. We've reached out to those staff members that we can presume had close contact, and, you know, some need to actually quarantine for 14 days required by the guidance. So some will need to do that and work from home if they can. Fortunately, at this time, most can. But I will continue to keep you updated as we learn more. So back to my report. So facilities will have their work cut out for them over the next week, 2 weeks, getting things cleaned. We did get a new machine specifically for cleaning for the virus that they're going to be testing out tomorrow. And back to the Ready School Safe Learners, our district leadership team is working on, we're looking at 3 different plans for returning students to school. One will be the full hybrid model that we created late spring over the summertime. And that would be students attending for 3 hours, either in an AM session or a PM session. We're also looking at continuing what we're doing right now with the synchronous virtual option and distance learning option, and overlaying it with the on-site instruction. And then continuing to offer, obviously, our CDL through the Accelis and Edgenuity programs. But we have a little bit of time to continue to work on that. Our intent was to bring kindergarten, first and second graders, well, kindergarten are already on site, to bring first grade and second grade back after the Christmas break in the same model we're using currently for kindergarten. And we still hope to do that, and we hope to see those numbers start to turn around and go down so that we can. And then the expectation would be to bring more of our 3rd through 12th graders back for limited in-person instruction. For instance, Chris Schertz, our high school math teacher, it was going to pilot having kids in class and teaching synchronously to kids that could just access his class virtually. So they had an option of being in person or on site, but learning at the same time with this the instructor. So we were hoping that that would tell us a lot and inform us moving into next semester of how we could build a schedule and offer some options to families, particularly as numbers rise and there might be families that aren't comfortable with sending their kids back to campus. So we will keep you posted on what those models look like. And one of the things we're hoping to do during conferences is both the middle school, high school, and the elementary created a script that they're really going to try and get a lot of feedback from their parents about how things have gone since the start of the school year. What could they do differently? What other supports families need? And moving forward, what model would they foresee wanting for their children should and when we get to open up to on-site instruction? Professional development, Mondays will continue to be that professional learning day. However, they've also been a day where our staff does a lot of parent outreach on those days, a lot of phone calls to families, a lot of individual work with students that might need it. A lot of times that's when students might get their special ed support virtually so that they can continue to stay included in their general ed classes. and not have to, typically we would do a pull-out models and they would come out of a general ed class to go get special ed services. So we're using Mondays to do that supplemental work. And so kids are getting that, not missing out and not being pulled out for other services. I also have a few items in here, but those will be included later in the packet because they will need some approvals and some acceptance, like the Division 22 report and the new policy that goes into effect for the new school year. I've also included our state report card, as brief as it is this year, because there was not a lot of data collected over last year that is typically included, like the attendance rates were not included because they were very skewed as far as what schools could report. We didn't do any state testing, so none of our state testing, which is typically included in our state report card. So we're really just looking at our graduation rate overall. And I'm really happy to see that over the last 4 years that has continued to rise, and we are above the state average now, and that feels pretty good. I'm excited about that. Any questions?
Yeah, the Lutheran Family Services Relief Nursery, how many people do you figure are gonna be using that from the get-go when it gets installed?
They're gonna have 2 classrooms, and their limit is 11 students per classroom in those buildings. So they target preschoolers. It's kind of a therapeutic preschool in a sense. So it's serving students, preschool students with special needs in a sense, whether that could be a disability or a behavioral need, and hoping to improve the outcomes for those students when they do get into general public education K-5, so that they can really address some of the issues that might prevent them from accessing their education or learning to their optimum, and providing that support for not just the student, but the families as well. It's really a wraparound service for the entire family.
Any other questions of the superintendent? Are there any principals? Any secondary principals?
An elementary.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. I hope that you guys can all hear me. I'm trying something new again tonight.
I need more volume.
More volume from me or from the thing?
I'm not sure if our speaker is down low or your microphone is down low.
Okay, I'm going to turn my video off and go from here. Is that better?
A little bit, yes, thank you.
A little bit. Okay, let me know if it gets bad. So for professional development this last month, our teachers participated in Ready Math training and assessments, report card or progress reports for the first quarter. We are starting a new incentive program for participation for the month of November. One of the complaints teachers were having was a way to boost student engagement. So we are incentivizing participation both online and in progress with Acellus, which is our online program. Students receive it's called a dog bone at the end of each day that they complete requirements like showing up to class, having their camera turned on, completing their work, and then we're going to select a winner from each class at the end of the week to receive a prize. And it seems to be going really well so far. We're a week into it, but it's going good, and teachers say it's helping. So we're going to keep doing that instead of attendance incentives this year. So kind of recognizing participation instead. For a little bit of fun, we had a staff Halloween costume contest that the staff got to participate in. There were prizes for favorite costume and coolest costume. And our kindergarten teachers usually take their kindergarten kids on a field trip to the pumpkin patch each year. And of course, this year they were not able to do it but instead turned the football field into a pumpkin patch for their students, which was really awesome. They filled it with pumpkins. The kids had a petting zoo with an alpaca and pig and some mini horses to pet and some bunnies. And then there was an obstacle course. They decorated balloons and then had donuts and cider. So it was a really good way to still include that tradition, but keep it appropriate for the situation we're given. Some upcoming events. It looks like no school November down there. We've got Veterans Day, family conferences, and then Thanksgiving break. Our enrollment is still doing pretty good. And then we sent out 2 surveys this last month. One was just to kind of see how the staff is doing, and then what we could do better to help them. And then the other was a parent survey. So on the next page, you can kind of see the staff level, staff stress level. A lot of our staff is doing pretty good. They're about right in the middle or low stress, which is great. Some factors that would help lower their stress level is just balancing the outside factors of home life and school, obviously technology issues, and then just adapting to the new way of teaching. So pretty common. Their overall happiness, they're doing pretty good. Only one totally unhappy. And they would increase their happiness by finding class time to fit everything in. They're pretty limited right now. And then, of course, seeing their students in person. They all want to see them. And then how successful do they feel with social distancing? Or not social distancing, sorry, distance learning. They're rating themselves pretty good at the success from their classes, 3 4s and some 5s, very successful. I think it's going pretty good for the majority of teachers, given what they're being asked to do. Some factors that would increase their success: kids having everything they need, technology, internet, parent support at home, getting all kids to show up on a consistent basis, and then more in-class time. And then I also asked them for some professional development needs, and I've been working on that. Teaching phonics online has been very difficult. Student engagement, which we worked on with our incentive program. We have a PACS training coming up in December. Staff wellness, we're working on that. And then they all got new smart boards that they want to know how to use. For the parent survey, we had a total of 57 responses, and it was pretty even across the board from all different grade levels. And most of the responses were with short-term distance learning, but we had some in-person from kindergarten and some Acellus kids on there as well. They are feeling overall pretty good. Lots of 3s, 4s, and 5s on the overall experience. The stress level has been pretty high. That's kind of it. There's not really a distinctive one. Pretty stressful on the parents. They indicated that the top barriers that are making the situation difficult is their work schedule and childcare, not fully understanding technology, and then the weak or no internet connection. We were able to secure 100 individual hotspots for our students for the district, and so we've been working this last week on getting those out to families that need them. So that will be kind of a game changer for a lot of our families. The next one was support from the elementary staff. We just wanted to know if we can do anything more to support them. Overwhelmingly, they said that they feel very supported, which is great. And then they also gave us a lot of feedback. The majority of the feedback was just they want their kids back in school, and I get it. We want their kids back in school too. A lot of positive praise, for individual teachers, and not a whole lot of constructive criticism. Stuff mostly about the Acellus program, which isn't perfect. But the complaints that were there were very specific to the situation, and we were kind of aware of those. So overall, really good information from our parents and our community. So I was happy to have that. And that will do it for me. Any questions?
On your staff participation on the survey, did you get 100% participation on that, or pretty close?
It was pretty close. There were a few, I believe all teachers did it. I think that there were a few classified staff who did not participate in it. Some of them have limited access to technology. They don't have a computer at school, or they didn't do it, which is pretty typical of our staff surveys. But yes, the majority of the staff responded.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Norwood.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys too. Happy birthday, Clinton.
Thanks.
Middle school, high school, anybody want to report about that?
Yeah, we can kind of we'll split it up here.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And I didn't know, but happy birthday, Clinton.
Hey.
Wish we could be there to celebrate some of those famous board meeting cookies and stuff with you guys.
I'll eat a piece of cake for you later.
Yeah. All right. Great. So professional development this last month on our Mondays, we've done kind of a number of things, and sometimes our Mondays are split with these different things, and we kind of split them up. But we've done some ruler training, finishing up our staff charter, and the ruler, the stuff that we've learned from ruler, we take and we do. Teachers kind of, when they come into staff meetings, they will check in with the mood meter, and then teachers have also taken that and have started using ruler in their advisory classes as well. We've talked about attendance, and we continue to address attendance, which actually the last time I had heard, our attendance numbers were roughly what they were last year around the same time. So we have not seen a drastic dip in attendance like we kind of anticipated. So that's a good thing. We did a 3-hour Edgenuity training a week ago where we talked about data and reporting and kind of how to customize classes and customize things for certain kids during that training. We've talked a lot about student engagement, whether that be attendance or classwork or engaging in classroom discussion. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later as well, because we've created a team for student engagement. And then like elementary, we also had a ready math training. And then a couple weeks ago, before Halloween, our staff took a day to do a staff bonding, and we did a pumpkin carving challenge, which is, obviously something we do to kind of build culture in our staff. And we posed a challenge to our staff to kind of take pumpkins and design with a theme that we gave them the best that they could with pumpkin carving, and they really did an amazing job and did some really cool stuff. I mean, I'm not doing it justice by calling it cool stuff, but it turned out great. And if you got a chance to see the pictures or the video that we put out there, they did a really cool job with that. Staff and student recognition. We're still doing the Friday dog tag raffles. We do them in videos that we send out every week and post those on Class Dojo, and we share them in our advisory classes. And that's just a way to not only support positive behavior, but it's also, I think, a way just to put something positive out there for kids and families to see during this time. We did a pumpkin run, had approximately 50 participants at the pumpkin run. And that was for, I think, pretty much anyone in the district that wanted to come and run around with a pumpkin. It sounds kind of fun, I guess. I'm not the running type, and especially with a pumpkin in my hands, probably not, but it sounded really fun. We had a Halloween drive-in movie night, and we had approximately 20 cars, so 20 families worth of people that came and attended that, which sounded really, really cool. And it was kind of like a drive-in movie theater that they did in the parking lot. And they showed the movie Hocus Pocus. So again, another opportunity for families to kind of come and get together, and kids to get together during this time where we don't really have that very much. We shared a parent video. We might have talked a little bit about that last time, but we'll give some feedback for you guys from that video that we got. And we talked about things like time management, attendance, CDL expectations, and then communication and advocation for students with their teachers. And then really just as far as recognition for staff and really for our whole district, it's just congratulations getting through the first quarter. This is these are interesting and weird times, but I really feel like we took the situation that we had and did the best that we could with it, and we gave families options, and teachers have been flexible, and I feel like families and kids have been flexible as well, working together to make the best of this situation. So as I move on to school improvement, really the main thing that I'm going to talk about with school improvement this week, and Jamie will take it a little bit as well, is our engagement team that we've created. And our engagement team consists of our admin, and attendance personnel, both our behavior specialists, and our dean of students. And I don't think I'm missing anyone there. So about 6 people. And we've created a form to where teachers can refer students to that team every week. And that team meets every week on Wednesdays. And we go over students who are not engaging. And that could be kids who are not attending class, but it could also be kids who are maybe attending class, but they have their camera off the whole time. They're not engaging in discussion. Maybe they're not doing work. And so it's that team's job to really dig deeper and try and find out what's going on, whether that be through lots of phone calls, which we do every week, but also setting up parent meetings and meetings with the kids to try and figure out plans that will help target what's going on and get them back on the right track. And so that engagement team really kind of highlights all of our school improvement. When you look at attendance, academics, social, emotional, parent involvement, that engagement team really encompasses all of that. So Jamie, do you want to talk a little bit more about that, and then maybe about what we're learning from the parent survey?
Sure. Yes. Happy birthday, Clinton. It's my turn. Say. So yeah, I think with the engagement team, one of the things that has been really great is that we have been, Sean mentioned, just like digging deeper into like really looking at individual family situations and really getting the students to be a part of the problem solving. And so like, for instance, today in our professional learning, we were able to come up with 5 real scenarios that are fairly common that we're learning, and we broke the staff up into teams, and they went around and they brainstormed different ways they could help, maybe potentially help this particular student. But it's really what we're trying to do is we've got 8 more weeks of school left before the semester, and some kids just had a real slow start, or they've had a lot of barriers, and we're trying to find ways to break those so that they feel like they have some hope and that they don't just give up at this stage of the game. And so the staff came up with some really great ideas around different ways to approach the situations, and so that is going to be super helpful, especially going into conferences and as we meet more with families and look at different ways we can work with them. And then we did our, as like Sarah said, we did a parent survey as well. And we had, because we've been doing a lot of, I feel like we've been really digging deep into data, but it's not like number data. It's more about like, getting information from people about what's working and what's not, and then making those adjustments along the way. We had about 87 or 90 parents fill out our survey. Sean and I did a video a couple weeks ago, and then we encouraged people to fill it out, and it was on our website. And I think it's very similar. I think our surveys are very similar with the elementary, but we got, a good representation of our CDL and our hybrid, and it kind of represents about what our students, the student population that's in those 2 different programs. And then just how happy are they with the overall experience? And we felt like, it kind of has the bell curve to it, but at least it's heavier on they're feeling happy. A lot of them feel like we're doing the best that we can given the situation. The stress level, how stressful has the experience been for your student and family? Once again, it's been fairly stressful. It's fairly, equalized throughout. But the important part was to know what those barriers were, like what are the barriers. And so, parents' work schedule, like Sarah mentioned, the time needed to complete the work and maybe having the right amount of help at home. And then technology and internet. And as Sarah mentioned about the hotspots, we were able to take every family that mentioned technology or internet on that survey, and we contacted all of them and let them know about the hotspots. And we were working off a spreadsheet of who might need them. And so today, or this week, last week, we were able to get out, I think, all of our hotspots that we had on the list. So hoping we're going to see at least removing that barrier. And then we've been meeting with families a little more specifically around creating schedules or how can we support their students because they're feeling that need to get that support. And then the final question, which I think is one that is really was very telling for us, which was the support they've received from the staff. And that was overwhelmingly positive. And that was important to us because that's been our goal, to really serve the students and the families where they're at right now, and know that not one size fits all, not even 5 sizes fit all, where it feels very individualized at this stage of the game, because we're really trying to tease out what's working and what's not for individual families. So, and so we'll just continue to get data from parents, from teachers, from students, and try to make those adjustments as we can. And and as Sarah said, we have our days, not a lot of class days in November, but definitely trying to make the best of them. And our conferences, in talking with the staff, they said typically their parent-teacher conferences aren't well attended at the middle school, high school, maybe high school even more so. And so we tried a different way. We put out a Google form for parents to request conferences, but we also asked the staff to identify students that they would like to conference with. And we actually made phone calls to those families and scheduled those conferences. We have for some teachers, their conference schedule is completely full, which is a big improvement from where it had been. So feeling really good from the engagement team side that the teachers, some of them will be group conferences because they wanted to meet with the same student, and then in other cases they're individual. So looking forward to seeing a boost of success after those as well. And that's all I have.
Who's the dean of students?
Mike Hughes.
Dean of students.
Yeah.
Good.
And he's halftime, he's teaching halftime and helping with student support half day.
And Lori Tony too was helping us with that. When we were going to be in person, she was going to help us in the morning and Mike in the afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, principals. Any other comments or questions from the board? Anyone else? Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a student.
Yeah.
We have Spire Nelson.
I was going to ask if we
Yeah.
had anybody for a tribal report. But we'll take a student report first. Hi there.
Hey everyone. Most of my stuff this week is going to be about sports because that's mainly the teachers that got their emails back to me. For football, we've been doing our workouts now in the middle school gym since the weather's starting to get colder outside, and with the rain, we've moved into there. And we've also been lifting. We've had about 15-ish guys at practice each time, which is really good. So we're starting to really put together a team and get ready for when we're going to play here in the early spring. For wrestling, we've been practicing, and we actually went to 2 tournaments, both in Utah. One of them was Western States, and the other one was the Bigfoot tournament. And then we've also been raising money, doing some other events like cutting wood for people in the community, and this is helping fund for more events and getting us the ability to go to these other tournaments. For leadership, as Ms. Fluken mentioned, we had our drive-in movie, which went really well. We had about 20-ish cars that showed up. We passed out bags of candy, and we had them all park up, and it went really, really well. We got some donations for that as well for our Shop for a Student program. We're still hoping to do that this year. We're trying to figure out how it's all going to work, but we're still accepting donations for it and trying to get it figured out. And then we also had the pumpkin run that went on, and there was about 45-ish people is what I was told that went there, and that went really well as well. And then that's all I have to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Quick question on your fundraising, the wood cutting.
Yep.
Do you supply the wood or is it customer supplied?
No, the customer actually had about 10 giant logs that they had fallen down. They hadn't taken care of them yet, and we went over there and cut them up for them.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other questions for the student? Good. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time. Do we have a tribal report?
This is Angie
Hi
Fasana,
there.
and I don't think Justine is on. So I'll just give you a quick update. We had a COVID response plan that we implemented starting in September 1st. And basically we just switched all of our service delivery to mostly online, with the exception of we opened up some internet classrooms in Grand Ronde. So we've been operating those. We have academic coaches for kids. So we've had an increase in caseload in those, which I expected once grades came out. And then we've also had academic advisors for our kids. So we've been doing a lot of that. We were gearing up to bring on some more preschoolers on campus this Monday, today. But we had three, I think, employees who came up positive this last week. So our offices were closed Friday. Today, they'll be closed tomorrow. We're off for the holiday Wednesday, and they'll be opening Thursday. It's not known at this time whether we will reopen the library or the internet classrooms or the immersion internet classrooms. We're kind of in a hold pattern for all of that. So I think that kind of sums up where we're at with that.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Fasana? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Next up is the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion for this.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion from the board? Questions or comments from the audience?
I just wanted to, one note, I had it in my notes to mention when I was giving my superintendent report, but I just wanted to mention that Lisa Anderson, our business manager, just graduated from her Oregon School Business Leadership Academy. So that was a 3-year commitment that she did when she first came on, and I'm grateful. It was a lot of extra time and effort, but I think the skill set that was gained and the network she has now to work with whenever there's, something new in the world of school finances. She's got a great backup group and has really expanded her expertise in the area. So I'm grateful for the board for approving that and allowing her to do that. It's made her a very strong, given her a very strong skill set.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by saying nay? Hearing none, it appears to have been passed unanimously. Audience time. Are there any members of the audience that wish to bring up anything before the board this evening? Hearing none, we move on to decision item number 1 to adopt board policy ACB with AR.
All right, so what you have in front of you is OSBA's sample policy, just with our logo. This has been this is a temporary rule. They expect it to become permanent, but all schools are expected to adopt a policy, and it goes into effect January of 2021. This also becomes a Division 22 reportable standard. So we'll get to the Division 22 report later, but it will become something that we have to provide compliance for. And so this would be our compliance piece for this new Division 22 standard. It also becomes with a bias complaint procedure that is also included with the policy, and that is on the next few pages. Just it describes in full how someone would go about making a complaint based on this policy and how it would be expected to be handled.
Thank you for that explanation. Is there a motion?
I guess I just have a little bit of concern when it includes like the Confederate flag. I don't see how that really falls into the hate symbols personally, because it's not directed at any specific nationalities per se.
Well, I
It's
guess.
a part of American history that, you know, I don't know, it just seems like.
So a little background on this. This is a policy that came about and is very student driven. And one of the things that got it to this point is that 46% of the students in Oregon are students of color.
Or what?
Students of
Oh,
color.
okay, yeah.
And the Confederate flag has been co-opted, for lack of a better term, by groups that have acted in ways that target students of color. And these incidents maybe not happened in our area necessarily, and maybe even not a lot in Oregon, but nationally they've been happening all over the US. And students feel like the presence of this flag is a reminder of a time when they were less than these students of color, that they were not considered equal, and a reminder that we still, these are students' words. a reminder that we are still not welcome. So I think it's really a policy that we need to put on student goggles when we think about this, and how we want our students to feel in our schools.
I have a question too. What about if a student wears a cross and another student is offended because maybe they don't believe in it?
Or anything else.
Yeah,
Okay, so
or the Star of David.
So I would say that doesn't exclude people, though.
There are some kids that I think are gonna carry this as far as they can. And let's say I look at Clint, and that kid is of a color, and he might say, hey, he did that. How is that gonna be, whose side are we gonna take?
I don't think there should be a side at all.
I know.
I think what they're saying is the Confederate flag, whether we like it or not, represents a time in our country when it represented a war and a side that lost, and a side that stood for some policies, laws that we've gotten rid of, rightfully so. But for kids of color, seeing that reminds them that people still believe in that. And what they're trying to express to administration is that it makes them feel unwanted when those things are allowed, something that is so visual. I mean, none of us would ever think the swastika is acceptable. It represented in another country, so maybe not us personally in the US, but a group of people that were attacked or unwanted in their country. And people of color, particularly our Black students, feel the very same way about the Confederate flag, whether we agree with them or not. But that's how they feel, and they've been very loud and clear about how they feel as a group. When they see that, when they see their classmates wear it, when they, it's not that they don't think doesn't belong in curriculum. It absolutely belongs in curriculum when we teach. But should they have to come to school and see it in their classrooms or, on a flag in the parking lot?
These same students that possibly are offended by the Confederate flag, why are they then not equally offended by the Oregon flag? Because when this state was created, Blacks were not allowed.
I don't have a good answer for that, Clinton, but I do believe that the Oregon flag is associated with that. Oftentimes, the Confederate flag is used by groups that still are very much white supremacist. It is used. Whether we like it or not, it's used by groups in the media, in protest, that make students feel like this is a reminder of where they belong.
There's a sentence in here that says, what is it? That this could face legal challenges, and I'm certain it will. You can't get me to back this. I will not vote for it. It goes beyond what I believe is constitutional.
And you absolutely have a vote. This is a policy that we're expected to adopt a policy.
You're gonna have to change your expectations as far as I'm concerned.
Quite honestly, we did this backwards. We're having discussion before the motion is on the floor. Policy is not yet before the board. I have not heard a motion, and without the motion, we can't pass on it. So I will call for a motion. If I do not hear one, we will move on. Is there anybody willing to make a motion on this issue?
Is it, what's our timeline on this?
The policy is expected to go into practice. Well, it becomes a reportable Division II standard in January of 2021.
So I guess my question too would be, what is it that why would we want to keep the Confederate flag present in our schools?
It's not only the Confederate flag, it's also what's the next thing and what's the next thing and where does it end? And I don't have any faith in where it ends.
And I understand that point, but I don't see how, as adults who lead a school who are trying to get kids to be accepting of one another, allowing the Confederate flag in our schools being acceptable. And I mean, it's just my only stance is that it represents people who were fighting to keep slavery. And how, I mean, I'm not a person of color, but I'm totally against that. And I could totally see how it would offend people of color. And offend maybe is too light. I mean, intimidate. It's probably another word.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, this is just coming from my perspective because I have never really been in the South where I think it's probably a lot stronger influence. And so probably just from my perspective, I just don't see it as a sign of hate because I've never really been in that environment per se. So I may, you know.
Well, and I will also share that we've had students who I have an example of in the past where a student wore it and it caused quite a disruption in the classroom because you had students who were offended by it. And so I agree that we can go too far the wrong way with getting offended by everything, but it's hard for me to compare things like the cross to things like the Confederate flag or the Nazi symbol, where you have groups that were defeated at one time in history that represented something that you know many years later we know to be wrong and against what I guess we're fighting for people to be equal.
Yeah. Again, we're putting discussion before the motion. Motion has not been made as such.
Can only the board motion, or can we motion to move it forward?
Only board members. So that motion fails.
Okay.
Set date, time, and location for superintendent evaluation document work session. So superintendent evaluation is due in when? February, is that correct?
March 15th is when the deadline for renewals.
Okay, so realistically, we need to
Typically in our March board meeting, we approve contracts.
so we need to have this done by February.
So we should
Probably set sometime within the next month, either at or before the next board meeting for this work session. Is there any problem with having the work session would be Monday, December 14th at either 6 or 6:30, depending on how much time we would need.
What days, you say?
Monday, December 14.
Okay,
It would be immediately prior to the next board meeting. And I don't know if we need a half hour or an hour.
I'd say an hour.
An hour, 6 o'clock then.
It gives them time.
Here in the library,
yeah, or we could do it in the conference room,
in the district office.
yeah.
That would work for me.
Talking about at the district office, right?
Mhm.
Listen, Corey Farmer wants to know how she can talk. She's apparently watching the meeting but wants to speak. She doesn't know how to-
Because she's probably attending my live
Yeah,
stream.
so she's on YouTube watching.
Yeah, it's live stream
she's
and you
doing the
can't.
live
yeah.
stream doesn't allow for comment.
Oh,
Unless she, if Richard could go in and give Corey Farmer, invite her to the,
Can I send her the Google Meet link?
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay. I'm gonna do that.
thank you.
So I'd like to readdress the first item on the decision. I would like to move the table that motion for more discussion. Because it specifically says to adopt a policy. It doesn't say that it's specific to this policy. I think maybe we could find some more
This is
topic
OSD
of discussion.
example.
I mean, at some point, we'll have to, we're gonna have to accept it, so I move we table it for more discussion.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Corey Farmer. Can I squeeze in a very quick comment about it?
Yeah.
First of all, for those who don't know me, I am a special education teacher in the structured learning program in the elementary. I'm sorry I don't make it to more of these meetings. I'm very excited that it is virtual though right now. I was calling or texting to get comment about something else, but this is something that is super important for me to discuss. My son graduated with one of Mr. Onstott's children. They went to school together their entire life. Brenda's was right behind them. The Koblentz girls all around, Mrs. Zimbrick's too. We have quite a beautiful community that is educating our children and leading us from the library right now. That's you. Right in front of me, our librarian brought in this ginormous stack of books. I'm referring to Sarah Frost, our librarian here in town. My son, who is now 21, recently, last week, sent me a text message that said, "Mom, I'm confused. I don't understand what it means to be privileged as a white man. I don't understand what it means to have all of the racial disparities that are happening in this world, and I need to know more." My son, who was raised in this beautiful town, went to school kindergarten through 12th grade, who is going to school to be a history teacher in hopes that he can come and teach in the same school that he went to school in, doesn't know why this is important. By banning things such as the Confederate flag, we are teaching our children what we believe in. And we believe that this is wrong. And I just encourage you to adopt it as it was written, because it was written from students who are begging those that were not educated to look at it differently now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I imagine policy ACB in its current incarnation or in a different form will show up on next month's agenda. And we will have that to look at that point.
I'm not, sure, but I'm guessing my table needs a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to table the decision adopting board policy ACB. Any board discussion? Any audience input?
I would also just say that we have not only students but also staff of color as well, and I really would hate that our leadership would not support them, and that's all I would say is if you're going to make that decision, please just be ready to speak on why you support the Confederate flag and why you believe that our kids should be able to represent that flag. That would be all I would say, because I don't think that represents the majority of the student body.
I would agree to that as well. I have several staff of color that are from the South, and I know that this is something that would be very near to their hearts.
And I want to go on the record saying that I'm really disappointed.
Any other input? It's been moved and seconded to table the decision to adopt board policy ACB until at least next board meeting in December. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Sounds like 4-1.
Thank you.
We have included the District 22 Annual District Report.
Right, so the report I've included, this is a report visual of the District 22 standards. The report I actually do for ODE comes as an electronic document, and where you see the OARs, the 581 and then the 022, the 022 indicating it's a Division 22 standard, and we're required to report on it every year. So these are all the things that we go through and that we are required to include in curriculum or in our planning or our staff training. There are a few things that are in here that are not necessarily Division 22 standards, but are important, like our non-discrimination statement. We talk about athletics, some of the things. It's a great snapshot of our district and speaks specifically to Willamina School District. I sent you guys this via email prior to November 1st, so you would have the opportunity to have seen it before looking at it and accepting it.
But this is a report that you have prepared, Ms. Emmer?
Yes. This is just a summary of the actual Division, all the Division 22 standards are included in this report.
Okay.
And it just gives a little scenario of what each one is.
And this report, strictly for our edification, is it filed from your office with the state?
With the state to ODE.
Okay. So.
But it's required that it is made public. It's on our website as well, but it has to be made public at a public board meeting prior to November 15th. It used to be that it was due in February, but they've changed that timeline to November. And In my email, I talked a little bit about some waivers in it for this year and this year only. Some of the things obviously that were waived were student assessments due to COVID, but all of these will be included once schools return to normal. Kindergarten readiness assessment was waived. Reporting on PE minutes and facilities was waived this year. So there's a few things that were waived this year, but for the most part, we're required to report on all of them every year.
Okay. Any items for future agenda?
I will look to see if I can find some other sample policies similar to the All Students Belong, other than just the OSBA sample policy. Several states have already adopted a similar type policy, so perhaps I could go to another state where those adoptions have taken place and look at some sample policies.
All right. Thank you very much. Anything else for the good of the order? None?
This is Corey Farmer. I apologize for interrupting. I wasn't able to speak during the general time. I just wanted to thank Carrie for looking out for us that are teaching on campus every day, including myself. I know that with this current situation that came up today, there's a lot of concern and confusion and questions. But when I spoke with every one of my parents today, this afternoon, after she sent out the robocalls, I was able to confidently tell them that because of the protocols that were set up, their students were not directly exposed. Neither was I, neither were any of my staff, that the classroom is a safe place to be, that when it is safe to be back, we will be back. And that I just really have appreciated the time and the efforts that have gone into every decision that has been made. Having my kids in my classroom every day has made a huge difference, and they are learning so much more than I ever could have taught them with the way that we are set up right now. And the experience of sharing their education with my general education peers has been a phenomenal experience for me, and it will forever hold a special place in my heart amidst all of this chaos that has happened in 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your participation. We are adjourned.